Politics and business. I'm going to be dead honest with you. I was very close to cancel the podcast this week for obvious reasons. We are at war. We are at war in Europe. The war activity, an invasion from Russia into the Ukraine, happened exactly this week. And normally I had canceled this podcast. However, I received a flood of emails where people ask me, are they allowed to take political ideas or political opinions into consideration when promoting or demoting someone for a job, or accepting someone into a job, or denying someone access to a job? And the sheer amount of emails made me move to the point that we're sitting here together and having this podcast. A couple of things which I need to put first. First, I want to publicly distance myself from anyone in my industry, in the education industry, who now offers training, coaching, or whatever else product, and takes the war scenario we have, the invasion of Russia into the Ukraine, as a hook to sell coaching or training to people. It's shameful. It's an absolute disgrace. I publicly distance myself from anyone who does that, and I publicly distance myself from any association that tolerates this behavior. These people are highly unprofessional, highly unethical, and deeply immoral, and they have to be dealt with accordingly. I have seen many people from my industry on LinkedIn who post really embarrassing stuff on LinkedIn. So when I see someone, and this just happened this morning, someone posted, "How would love have decided Mr. Putin? Mr. Putin, listen to the love." Honestly, these people need to get their sanity checked. We're talking about facts here, and facts are Russia invaded the Ukraine, and that's a criminal scenario which brings up the immediate demand that Mr. Putin has to end up in Den Haag at the court there for human rights. So, long story short, we're going to talk very briefly about, is politics allowed to influence the decision to allow someone into a job or not, to promote or demote someone? And of course, there are a couple of aspects which have to come first. So step one, you need to be aware of the political spectrum, and not only the political spectrum in your country, but also the countries you deal with. And I see countless leaders who say that they are not very aware, or they only know their part of the political spectrum and the spectrum which they support. That is not enough. And especially, again, in my industry, where many people say, "Oh, I'm an international speaker, I've been here and there and blah, blah, blah." Look, when you want to claim that you're an international trainer, speaker, consultant, or whatever, tell me, where have you lived outside your home country? My way of living, my life so far, I was born in Hamburg, northern Germany, grew up in Barmstedt, a small village about 40 miles away from Hamburg, then moved back to Hamburg, lived there from the suburbs to the center, then lived in Berlin, lived in London, lived between London and Gran Canaria, and now in London, in between London and Zurich, not about talking about 35 other countries in which I worked. But as soon as you claim that you know something about international circumstances, when you only lived in your own country, your point of view is rather limited, politely said. So be aware that when you make a judgment, you must be informed, or if you don't know enough, ask people who know about it. So we all know that diverse points of view leads to the best results. However, we need to draw a certain line where under the cover-up of diversity, you can't say certain things. There's a very clear limit to the so-called freedom of speech. Freedom of speech, of course, allows anyone to say anything. Still, in different countries, there are different limits. And the freedom of speech, especially in businesses, ends as soon as you limit the rights of others. And that, in most cases, happens to minorities and women. Women and minorities are always the first people who become victims to so-called freedom of speech, when someone hate speeches down onto others. And you have to draw a very clear line as a leader there that this will not be accepted. When looking into extremist parties, be aware that there is a certain difference between far right-wing and far left-wing. When you have far right-wing people, they are always very close to fascism, which means they want to have one picture of society and they want to put that through, and anyone gets wiped off the map. This is why, for example, the far right-wing movement AfD, a party in Germany, which, for example, has Björn Höcke as a member, a person which, even according to court, is allowed to be called a Nazi and a fascist. That's confirmed by court. These people have party slogans when they advertise for general elections where they say Germany, but normal. So they define normality and anyone else gets wiped off the map. These people are inherently dangerous. Any membership or any sympathy, any kind of support for these parties immediately mean that these people cannot be leaders. Otherwise, you will be, of course, accused to comply with Nazi movements, and rightfully so. When you look into the far left-wing party, and let's look into Germany where you have the left, which is a far left-wing socialist/communist movement, so far left that in English-speaking countries, in most of them, it doesn't even exist. So you don't have such a far left-wing movement in the UK. And, well, it is there, but it is so small, they would never get a seat in the House of Commons. In the US, they would never get a seat somewhere in the Senate or anywhere else. So this movement has many very weird tendencies. Their stand against the NATO is completely unacceptable, as we see now in the situation in which we are. So when someone says, as Sarah Wagenknecht, a former leadership person of that party, said, NATO is an aggressor and they are now harvesting what they seeded, these statements are so unbelievably unacceptable that these people need to be chucked out of the party immediately. And the left, Die Linke, that's the name of the party, for not doing that so far. It's a complete failure of leadership. However, there's a small part, especially from educated younger people, the so-called programmatic left, people who want to change something towards a more social state and a higher taxation, more regulated state, which is not totalitarian, not communistic at all. I still completely disagree with these people, and I found their ideas completely insane. They don't make sense at all. However, you cannot say that their ideas are not in the democratic spectrum. Huge parts of the rest of their party might be, and you need to question them where they stand. However, you cannot say that the far right wing and the far left wing are equally dangerous, because that is factually incorrect. If you say that publicly, you disqualify yourself as a leader and you lose the so-called social legitimization, and that can lead to significant consequences when it comes to people listening or not listening to you when you lead them. So does a political opinion influence decisions for a career? And the answer is yes. Of course, political ideas and whatever political concept you follow have a consequence if you are suitable for a certain position or not. If you have a diverse workforce and you have someone following a political party which is strictly non-diverse, this person can never be a leader. This person shouldn't be aboard your whole organization. I give you an example. Let's take me as a person. I'm with the liberals in Germany. I would not become a leader of the Rosa Luxemburg Foundation in Germany, which is a far left-wing foundation, because my political opinion of lower taxation and less regulation is completely the opposite of what they want. So they would never hire me, and rightfully so, based on my political opinion. So the question which many people now had was, can a political opinion, a political support, be a yes or a no to let someone to bring someone into a position or to take someone out of a certain position? And the answer is a very clear yes. So I hope this helps you. I'm going to end this podcast in a slightly different way than I normally do, because, normally I say that there's only one thing for me left to say, but this time there are a couple of more things left to say. So first, thank you very much for your time. Second, I hope that you all stay healthy, and please, and that's the number 3, please take care of yourself. See you all again here next week, and I wish you all the best for this week. Thank you.